How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Falcon's Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to another movie review, aka Ferrell's Soul review video for today. For this new aka Ferrell's Soul review video for today, this is going to be my review on the film that came out this year for 2022, which this movie is not a theatrical release film. This is a streaming service film, which this was released on Apple TV+. But this film was played in cinemas just for 1 week. Then a week later, it was released on their streaming service, Apple TV+. And just a few days after, and then just a couple weeks after it was released, it did play just for 1 week, just for 2 days for a sing along event of sorts. And I didn't see this on Apple TV Plus straight away when it first came out. I decided to watch this film around the holidays since this is a Christmas film. So I just got done watching this film just a few minutes ago, and I'm here to give you guys my review on this movie, which this is going to be my review on the 2022 musical comedy Christmas film, and that is Spirited. Now, this was directed by Shawn Anders, and this was also written by him along with John Morris. And this movie is basically a modern retelling of Charles Dickens's classic story, A Christmas Carol. And this film stars Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, in which, for Will Ferrell's character, he's pretty much a spirit, which 2 centuries ago he was a human, but he died, and so now we see him as a Christmas spirit, and he's basically the spirit of Christmas present. And we see him in his world, where he lives in this world with a bunch of other spirits, where they basically help humans to basically change themselves for Christmas. And for Will Ferrell's character present, he finds this new human he interacts with, who's pretty much the Scrooge character, and his name's Clint, played by Ryan Reynolds. Even though he's not pretty much like Scrooge, he feels like he's the guy who has all the power and stuff like that. And he has a niece who's running for class president, who she's competing with this other boy who wants to become class president, and all she wants to do to him is that make a line trend all about him on social media. And what ends up happening to Clint is that he ends up going on this magical journey with a bunch of Christmas spirits, mostly with Will Ferrell, which is the Christmas present. And we see a whole bunch of musical numbers as well throughout this whole movie. So pretty much this whole movie is basically a Christmas Carol parody, but with musical numbers. So that's pretty much the story of Spirited. Now, I did not know what to expect from this movie whatsoever, because I never saw a single trailer for this movie or anything. I just saw a few posters for this movie. And once I saw the posters for this movie, I just didn't even know how this movie was going to play out for myself, because I didn't even know, was this going to be a good watch or was this going to be an okay watch. And obviously I didn't expect this film to be absolutely awful or anything, because this movie didn't look awful or anything to me at the very start. It's just, again, I just didn't even know how this one was going to play for myself, even though it had two of the main leads who are in this movie who I'm a huge fan of, which are both Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, in which both of these actors, I think they are both really funny and yet charming actors. And when I did a bit of research for this film, what kind of movie this was, when I already found out this was a Christmas movie, I also found out this is another movie that's based off Charles Dickens's classic story, A Christmas Carol, but this one is basically a modern retelling of that story, in which over the last few years we've had a few Christmas Carol adaptations, like set in like the way it's set out to be as from the original book, or just set basically modern time or anything like that, in which we've had some pretty good ones over the last few years, like The Muppet Christmas Carol, which I really enjoyed that one. We've had Scrooge with Bill Murray, which that's basically a Christmas Carol adaptation, but in the 80s, and I enjoyed that one. And we've even had we even had one, like I said, that's based off the original book, and it's not like set in a modern time or anything, which was we've had lots of different ones in the past or anything like that. Like we've had one from the 50s, which I've heard is considered to be the best of them all, which I haven't seen that one though. But we've had one from Robert Zemeckis, which is basically an animated one, which is like motion captured animated style, starring Jim Carrey, which for that one, it's not too bad, even though I just kind of felt it was a bit unnecessary to be really that dark and all that. But it's not a bad adaptation though. And so, like I said, this was released on Apple TV Plus on just a month ago. But I didn't watch this when it came out straight away or anything like that, because once I found out this was a Christmas movie, I decided to watch this movie just around the holidays, along with like other movies that was released the exact same month, which are Christmas movies and all that. So I watched this movie just a few minutes ago. I just watched this movie in the afternoon, and after watching this movie surprisingly wasn't that bad. Actually, I actually had a pretty solid, enjoyable time with this movie. But I wouldn't see this movie being like the next Christmas classic or anything like that. But this still is an enjoyable watch, yeah. When it comes to the storytelling for this movie, like I said, the whole storytelling for this movie is pretty much a modern retelling of Charles Dickens's classic story, A Christmas Carol. And while this film has the exact same story, you pretty much already know where this film is going from its story. Even though this film does poke fun at that story, which I did find that entertaining for the most part, and it also pokes fun at the musical numbers as well, which I also found that entertaining as well in the movie as well. And despite the fact that this film is basically a modern retelling of Charles Dickinson's classic story and being a parody of that story, I just felt the whole story this whole storytelling for this film, where it has the exact same formula, it just didn't add anything new to it. Even though there's some little bit of new stuff and all that, like some new twists and turns, I just didn't feel like this film added anything more new to it and all that. But the storytelling for this film wasn't all that bad. I just felt the whole storytelling for this film was pretty much a mixed bag for me. Because there are times in the film where the storytelling tries to go somewhere and all that, and it doesn't even know where it wants to go and all that, which was a bit of a distraction for me, which that's one of the weakest aspects I have with the film. Like, it doesn't even know if it wants to be a musical film or a romantic film and all that, because there's one romantic plot line in the film with Will Ferrell's character and Octavia Spencer's character, which for that storyline in the film I kind of found a bit forgettable, but it wasn't all that bad. Just overall, the storytelling for this film was pretty much a mixed bag for me, and the writing for this film as well for me was just pretty much a bit messy, but it wasn't all that bad as well. And since this movie is a musical, there are some musical numbers here and there in this film, which when it comes to those moments, they're really entertaining to watch. And I did find myself enjoying those moments. Like, there are some songs I did find memorable while I was watching the film, but I wouldn't say those songs will be like super memorable or anything like that when it comes to this film over the next few years. And there's a few songs in the film I just didn't find that memorable enough. But still, though, there are some good amount of songs in the film, like musical numbers, that managed to make myself a solid, enjoyable time with this movie. And when it comes to the performances in the film, both Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, they're both really good together in this film. Their chemistry is just really funny to watch and entertaining. And when it comes to their performances outside their chemistry, I thought their acting was pretty solid in the film. And when it comes to them singing, they're really good at singing in the film. Like, well, I've already heard Will Ferrell sing before in a few films, and he's really good at singing. But when it came to Ryan Reynolds singing, I never really heard him sing before in a movie that much. But after seeing him in this movie, I was like, he should be in another musical in the future or something like that, because he's actually pretty good at singing. And Octavia Spencer, like I said, she's in the movie. She was pretty solid for her performance, and her singing in the film was also pretty good too. And I feel like she could be in a musical in the future at some point. I don't know, but she's pretty good at singing as well in the film. And when it comes to the jokes in the film, it's another weak aspect I have of the film, because the jokes for me was kind of another mixed bag for me. Because there were some jokes that did give me some chuckles while I was watching the film, and there was a few jokes that didn't kind of land for me whatsoever, because some of those jokes did kind of fall to the ground. But when it came to those kind of jokes that did fall to the ground for me, they weren't the ones that didn't want to make me pull my hair out while I was watching the film or anything like that. Just overall, the jokes was pretty much a mixed bag for me, and that was another weak aspect I had with the film. And another weak aspect I do have with the film is the runtime. The film's only 2 hours and 7 minutes. I kind of wish it would have been cut shortened and all that, due to some scenes that do tend to drag on and all that, and some parts of film which I kind of felt was a bit unnecessary and all that. But overall, in the end, guys, Spirited, this was overall a solidly enjoyable Christmas musical here. But I wouldn't say this film will be the next Christmas classic or anything like that over the next few years. But this is still a solid, enjoyable watch. Yeah, and if you're a fan of Christmas musicals, or you're a fan of the story itself, since this movie is basically a Christmas Carol parody, or you're a fan of the cast like Will Ferrell or Ryan Reynolds or anything like that, this is probably one you could watch for your family to watch at home. And if you missed a chance to see this in cinemas, which this did play for 1 week, this film is available to stream on Apple TV Plus, and if you do have that, like I said, it is available to stream on that streaming service. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Spirited. I'm going to give Spirited 3.5 out of 5. Like I said, this movie surprisingly wasn't a bad watch yet, because I went into low expectations thinking this was going to be an okay watch for myself. But no, after watching this whole thing, I surprisingly enjoyed this one. Even though I don't see this film being like the next Christmas classic or anything like that. And despite having flaws I obviously knew I was going to get while I was watching this movie, I still managed to have an entertaining time with this. And luckily, this film didn't make me bored to tears whatsoever. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my ACAF Horror Store review on Spirited. And let me know what you think of this movie. You have seen this already, if you just recently checked out this movie. Did you have a good time with this, or was this not really a cup of tea? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Fogger's Media Corner signing off. Happy holidays, everyone.